Hi everyone. Today's guest is actually a special guest who is my cousin from Taylor from Taylor Made Events, who is a New York City event producer who is just doing some of the hottest events and the hottest venues in New York City. And outside of that, she's also a real estate investor and a stock market investor. So we're going to be talking about some great things that she's doing and more about the event planning space. So please help me welcome Taylor to the show.
Yay! Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes, likewise. Like we have so much to talk about, but we're gonna keep it to 30 minutes.
Okay.
Because wow, it's gonna be so many topics. But I really just want to really talk about how you even got into event planning space in general.
Okay. Generally, I started off as an event producer at this company as they did event production mainly. Mm-hmm. And then I was a project manager working at that company. It was my first job out of college. But before all that, I've always known I wanted to be an event planner. This is a really funny story, but when I planned my 16th birthday with my mom, I just loved being able to put things together and go to the vendors and be like, this is what I want, and pick out what I want and get to put it together. And I think the childhood experience, after that, I was like, Mom, I want to be an event producer full time. And she was like, absolutely not. No, she said, because what parent wants their child to be like, I want to be an event planner for the rest of my life? You know?
It doesn't sound like cold.
No, it's not banking.
Lawyer, doctor, banker.
No, it's none of that.
Industry,
right.
Yeah.
And I think also as parents, they want to know that they can help you. And she was like, I know nothing about that world. But anyway, that's kind of where it started. And then I went to college for marketing. Mm-hmm. It was the closest thing that I could come to that was business and something that was fun. Yeah. And then I joined this event planning committee at Temple University. That's where I went to school.
There we go.
And I was on that organization for a long time. I started off as secretary, became president my senior year, and that's kind of where my love for event planning started. Wow. And then since then, I've dabbled in a bit of event production for corporate companies. I've done some casual stuff, but I really do like the big planning events, the stuff with the bigger budgets.
The bigger dollars. We could do
bigger dollars. But that's kind of how I jumped into it. I was an intern at a company that I currently work for when I was 16.
Wow, so you've been to the same company.
I haven't been with the whole same company, but one thing I think that's really important is keeping connections. Yeah. And I reached out to that company after I interned for them every summer for 6 summers. Wow. And eventually she started her own company, and then that's where I am now. But that was when I was 16. I kept in contact. I interned for her again, and now I'm working there full time. But in between that, I worked a lot of operations jobs, project management jobs. I went to grad school for project management. So. But
keeping those relationships and everything. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about too, is just not letting it be so transactional. Okay, you did your thing, you got your internet. Yeah. But actually keeping that grow, because you never know where that's going to take you down the line.
Yeah. I think a lot of young people forget how important it is just to communicate and just have somebody know that you're thinking about them. And that's kind of how I did it, was if you ever have an opportunity that comes up, just let me know. Yeah. And it's not has to be set in stone, but it's something that you just have to build relationships with people.
Yeah. That's it. Relationships are key. Be a human.
Yeah.
Own humans, right? It doesn't have to be oh, you did this, now I have to do something in return. It could just be that keeping in contact.
Yeah.
That's where it led you.
Yeah.
So you kind of didn't just just do it by yourself, right? You got into it. You had that background, and then now you've been in with this organization. So how is that just working with a team of people in the event production space like that?
I love it. I think event production is a team event, right? You can be an event manager or a project manager, and I relate event management a lot to project management, because I feel like people look at event planners and they're like, oh, you just throw parties and you have fun and drink and yada, yada, yada. But there's a lot of strategy behind event production. And you can be an event planner, but you're essentially the project manager of whatever event that is, so that you're working with all the vendors, you're working with in a team of even in my office, the girls who are other event planners, I like to hear their ideas too on my events, because, as a collaborative group, I'm not an expert on everything. That's my biggest thing I like to say. I love to also say I'm usually not an expert on anything. I'm an expert on project management.
Right. There we go.
Because I feel like people should be able to look to the experts and be I want your valid opinion and I want your expert opinion, because that's what's going to count more.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think relying on my in-office team to really check me or come up with ideas when I'm out of ideas, but also working with the vendors, the AV team, the production people, the florist, the decor person. Because a lot of people think, oh, you're the one doing the decorations. No. I outsource. Right. We strategize all together as a team to what's going to work best for the client.
Right.
But essentially, like, you are that person that connects everyone.
Right.
So,
like, you kind of have that. You're the visionary, and then, but you know who to tie in to do each part. Right?
Yeah. And I think it's important to know what everybody's strengths are.
Yeah. That's true.
Because one thing I don't love doing is like financials. I'm not great at that. Not great at that.
So give me the budget.
Right. Like, I can do the budget, but when it comes to being extremely detail oriented, when it comes to like certain financial management, I know I'm not great at that.
Right.
So I'm going to rely on my coworker who is great at that, but like maybe not great as a designer as I am.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah. That's so interesting. That's really good to kind of look at when anyone's doing events, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, even for me, you made a good connection for me at Saint Lounge in New York City. If you guys haven't been, that's like the best.
Go to Saint.
Go to Saint. Saint is it. But back in over the summer, I did an event based on the connection that you did, and a lot goes into it. And it's a real estate event. And people might say like, oh, I'm just going to do a real estate event and put it together. But a lot goes into it. Who's going to work the door to make sure random people aren't going to come up? Yeah. Who's going to do the list? Who's going to be, making sure the drinks flow? Yeah. Keep you conversating. There's a lot of moving parts to hosting an event. So like even people in my space that want to do like an event, for the real estate to boost their community. Like, what would you say is like some of the key points to either event planning or producing, and even the difference between the two?
I think you have to think about like, how do you want people in the room to feel when they come to your event? Like, that's like the starting point. It's like, what are you here for? What's the goal? How do you want people to feel? How do you want them to leave? Because like, the impact of whatever event you're hosting is for a reason, whether it's to raise money, whether it's to, I don't know, like, leave with more knowledge that they're giving you within real estate. I think you have to start there with what do you want the room to look like? And then there are other elements that you can bring into the space that's like, how can we craft a program through this event that's interactive, but also something that is, motivating and fun and, but also has like a lesson to it or something, whatever you want them to leave with. But I think when you're working with event producers, they have the knowledge of the flow of strategy and how things work in a room, where you have the knowledge of the institution, they have the knowledge of the process. Maybe you want to do a tableside talk where you're talking with someone, and you have like an audience or you want to integrate other panels or sessions, all that stuff is really important when you're doing events. So I think you really need to think about, when you're strategizing with your event producer, they're that person that's really going to help you like bring that vision to life. So I think for anyone who's looking to host events, just starting with like, what do you want your event to be? And then rely on your event producer to really help you create that vision. And if you have a good event producer, a good one, I'm talking about the good ones, those people will really help you strategize in the way that they're supposed to. I feel like some people, there's a lot of like decorations and yada, yada, yada. But I think people don't think about, I come from like a conference background. So like you also need to think about like for bigger conferences, tracking. How do you know who attends what sessions that you're going to? How do you know like who takes interest in more stuff and certain things? Like, there's a lot of event technology out there also that you can help integrate into your events that can really help you, see the data, but also like know how to move forward within your own business. So.
That is so important that you said that. It's like tracking too. Because you don't want to just throw a big event and everyone leaves like, oh, thanks for the good event. And like, wait, how am I going to get your information? I'm going to stay in contact with you. So I think that's also a big piece to it, like just that aspect alone. But I also want to touch on, because you kind of touched on fundraising a little bit too, is like, especially in the real estate world, people who are looking to raise money for they have bigger projects and stuff. What does that look like for like your fundraising? Is there like certain things that you would incorporate in those type of events that make it totally different than your normal one?
Yeah, fundraising events are definitely different. They're a heavy load because also it depends if you're a nonprofit or for-profit. It depends what type of world you work in. I work most in fundraising for nonprofit organizations. There are certain things that you have to, guidelines with the New York State or whatever state you're in that you have to abide by. And also when you're fundraising, like people are coming to this space to raise money. how are you going to make them feel in that moment in order to spend their money? Yeah. So like, what is that impactful moment throughout the night or whatever your event is, whether it's a conference, that's going to make them go in their pockets to be like, we need to spend money. Yeah. So I think if you have a good event planner, they'll help you think through like, what's that piece that's going to, it might not be at every event where it's like this impactful moment. Maybe it's a performance. One of my events we work with, community housing in Brooklyn, and they do a lot of work with helping people integrate back into getting an apartment, all that stuff. If they're displaced or anything, they're great. I love them. Yeah. But you know, one of the things we think about is like, how are we going to get people to like really spend their money or, you know, raise during a paddle raise or something. Yeah. And they do an impactful performance with people who have been impacted by homelessness or things like that. And that performance and seeing the artwork from residents who actually live there. So I think you have to think through what is going to get people to put their hands in their pockets and spend the money.
Right. What's going to get them going? Right. Paying for the price.
What's going to make them, you know, you want them to feel how they should feel. And it shouldn't be an act. It should be real. Like whenever you're getting someone to fundraise for anything, it should be something that's important to you. Right. Something that you think could benefit them. Yeah. So how are you really strategizing to do that? Right. So, yeah.
I think that's important too. And like for any event, like if you're doing fundraising, raising money, or just an event in general to get your name out there, I think you want to leave that, like put enough effort to have everyone feel like, wow, like that was great. It meant a lot. And that they see all the effort in the background that not physically seen it, but like all the things coming together when they show.
Yeah, it should. It should. I think also, it's really cool because you mentioned Saint. So I work full time at an event company, but you guys know I also have Tailor Made Events, which is my own company that we just spoke about, was named by my mother. And that has really just been like a passion or lifelong project of mine. I've started Tailor Made Events when I was like 18 and now I'm 29 and I still like get to work with like friends and family on certain events or like Saint. I met the owner of Saint through a connection on a boat, honestly, on a boat. During a boat ride. Don't miss a boat ride because you never know. During the pandemic, I had a friend who was hosting a boat ride on the Hudson River, and I went. And the guy who was kind of like managing and organizing everything, we became really close friends, and kind of like relied on each other. Not relied, but we did converse about a lot of business opportunities, whether that's Philly real estate investment or anything. And we kind of just like kept checking on each other. And then he opened up this restaurant and had a bunch of questions in regards to like how to do certain events there. And if it wasn't for me meeting him on that boat and keeping that connection, even if it wasn't something that was going to be impactful for me in that moment, it was just like, it brought a lot of opportunity for me that I never even thought I would be not interested in, but I would ever be in at this point. Right. So
that's amazing. Like all these connections that you have, right? And I would have never even had an event there. That connection. So that is so important that like in those opportunities, like what other things are you working on outside of that?
Okay. So I love, Chrissy will tell you, Chrissy's a big real estate girl. I'm learning real estate. Yes. And I rely on her a lot for advice on certain things. Yeah. So I'm really big on like investing in myself now. I wasn't that good at taking care of myself before, but I feel like this past 2024, I took some time to think about like my financials, how I want to start organizing certain things, whether it's business or personal. So I do some investments. I do stock investment. I've been a long-term stock investor now for like 10 years. You guys, sometimes the slower route is the better route. Trust me. And quick, it doesn't always have to be quick, but I know it now because I've been in it for like almost 10 years now. And that really came from my mom and her knowledge of like investing and wanting to instill that from we were kids. That's something that I do. I also did some real estate investment in Philly. So I have a house out there. I was Airbnb-ing it for a while. Now it's a full-time rental, which for me works better. Do it in my busy schedule. Of life. Airbnb is too much. much. It's chaotic. The short-term rental stuff. And like I said, like sometimes the slower is the better. It is. It's not always a rush. It's not always like, let me figure out how to get quick money. We live in a world right now that's so like, how would I make money fast?
100,000
right tomorrow. And I'm like, and then you're like, sell these digital products. And I'm like, do y'all care about any of this stuff?
Like, that's not real.
So I do the real estate investment, and then also trying to think about like where I want to take tailor-made events in the long term. Like, what does it look like for me? And also possibly investing in some other like, real estate, and fun stuff in the future. But I always thought also like thinking about like silent investing.
Okay. Like being more private. Just here's the money, you deal it. I don't want to deal with anything.
Because I feel like I have so much going on with event production. Like everyone always comes up to me and they're like, how is this your everyday life? And I'm like,
it's a lot. It is. Oh,
it's a lot. It's fun though. I genuinely enjoy it. I think I like the fast pace of it, but I think also there's a lot of aspects to it that I feel like I can bring myself out into the event. So those are the couple of things that I'm working on right now.
I think it's good too that you're not just like, okay, let me do an event. Like you're also putting your money into other things.
Yeah.
Over time. So it's not like you're just focusing on making money there, but like, okay, I'm going to invest something here, a little something there. So but you're like diversifying your portfolio.
Yeah. I think the long-term goal is that we make money now, we invest it, so that we can work a little bit less later and spend some good time with our loved ones and like even ourselves. Like we need some downtime. So for me, my goal is to continue to, build TaylorMade, build my events, whatever, to a point where I feel like, I can take that money and invest it elsewhere.
Yeah.
I love my job. I probably will never stop event planning.
Okay.
I won't. So
Good.
if you need me, call me.
Yeah.
So I probably won't ever stop event planning, but I think that just being able to bring out me and do all that is cool.
I think that's good. Especially when you're doing events, you're just bringing out who you are, right? Especially with TaylorMade, right?
Yeah.
You can kind of bring your own style to whatever someone's event is. Because I think a lot of people like, I don't know what I want to do, but I just want to do anything. They don't really have a vision or a goal besides they just want to do an event.
Yeah.
So like your expertise and creativity will definitely like show in an event that you do.
Yeah. And I also recently in working in all these different realms, right? So I work like my full-time job where I work mainly in fundraising, and then I've helped friends do certain things. And it's just like when you work in different realms, it's nice because it's like what I'm doing here works here, but it doesn't work there. But like what you're doing now, I have knowledge on in a different industry. How can I help you with this? Yeah. So I think it benefits me to work in both because it kind of gives me, and it's also a constant learning process.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
Having event and project management experience is great, but like you're working in project management events in different industries. You might be working on a music industry event. Yeah. You might be working on a gala for a nonprofit. You might be doing a golf outing. You might be doing a basketball tournament. Like there's just so many things. And a lot of it integrates. Right. I don't do a lot of weddings and bridal parties and bridals.
Can't do my wedding.
I would definitely do your wedding. Yeah. I think those things are very, they are great. And there are some really, really great event producers for those things. I just don't feel as connected to the work when it's someone's wedding. Like, and those are very special moments for people.
Yeah, you're very emotional.
Yes. And I feel like they can be very draining for those who are event planners. Cause you want to make it the most perfect evening for them. Right. Those things are touch and go, but upon request,
you gotta be a special song.
I'm sorry, people.
That is interesting, but it's good to know because like, especially with the real estate industry, like I do a lot of events every month, and especially tapping into more, instead of just like, hey, let's meet up and do a seminar, but like, how can we make this on a bigger scale? Especially like you said, conferences. Yeah. I think people look at conferences as events, and it is a huge event. Yeah. Everything to like the swag bag that you get, and then to the QR codes, who's signing into what class. Yeah. Like there's a lot that goes into it. So if somebody like if someone wants to say, like someone from real estate wants to like start their own event and like to just get business or whatever in general, like what kind of like key things would you even tell them like to just even start with that?
I think it goes back to what I said before, like where do you want the vision to go? So like some key elements of like conferences, things that you don't really think about when it comes to a conference or an event. There is a whole system for check-in. And you want to make sure you're tracking your people. Who's there? What information do you have for them? What information do you not? What are you trying to gather from them at the front desk? Is there anything you need to give to them in return? Is that printed? Is that digital? Is that whatever? And then once they're in the actual sessions, like who are they interacting with? What sessions, what are the key sessions that they should be attending? Is it something that they can do as, a plenary session is a larger session that people can attend, but is there a breakout session you want them to attend, or a specific interview, or you could have a session like this essentially, for people to see or interact with. Right. Also, I think, something that people miss out at conferences is what are those interactive moments that people can not only just talk to other people, but we have AI and we have all these
you're gonna tap into
cool right, we've had a whole conversation about that.
Yes,
but there's a lot of builds and installations now that people can do, and I think I feel like conference planning is actually some of my favorite planning.
Really?
Yeah, although it depends on what the conference is about.
Okay.
But I feel like it's cool because you kind of, especially the larger ones, because how you don't think about it when you attend a conference. It's I'm just here. I paid my money.
Right.
I want to learn. I go. I eat meals. I go home. But there's a whole logistics.
Yes.
Are you feeding the people?
Right. Food.
Right.
Because they're hungry.
Right. People are hungry. You want them to stay. Are you feeding them breakfast? Are you feeding them lunch? Is there a cocktail reception that you could do after? Yeah. I think when it comes to someone who's in real estate, who's looking to plan their event, what are the elements that you want to make sure are your key pieces for your event? Yeah. And then from there, decide okay, either we're breaking down or we're building up. What are we adding? What are we taking away? What's not necessary?
Right.
And just sitting with someone who can really help you strategize and know the back end operations of food and beverage and coffee stations. People need coffee.
I got yeah. So, where's the coffee and the tea? Because it's cold in here.
Right.
Versus freezing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. It's a lot of bodies in the room, so they need to turn down the temperature.
Yeah.
But even assessing that, I think, and who needs to turn on the AC?
Yeah, that's true. Who's that guy?
There's someone for that.
That's important too, is the team, because even doing my event at Saint, it's okay, I had hundreds, I think I almost had, it was maybe 100 people there. And I'm who's my team? All right, I had my dad at the door, my sister roaming around, my brother, we had to separate. My dad's with his glasses. Hold on, you're not on my bus with a highlighter that, so it's we had to really improvise.
Yeah.
And it's if I didn't have that, it would be mass chaos, right? I can't entertain people and then also work the door and then also make sure the drinks are flowing and that, so there's a lot that goes into it. So it's a good thing you said that. It's just having a team, who's going to turn the AC up or the music or this. So
there's value in having an event producer. I feel a lot of people skip out on that because they're oh, it's an extra expense. It's an extra expense that is definitely worth it because if you want to run your event. You want to go into your event. You want to do what you came here to do, have people feel how you want them to feel. But also not be the caterer, the person who's checking up on the AV. You need a team for that and you need someone to strategize it. And it doesn't make any sense. It's actually way more overwhelming for you when you don't have one. Yeah. And even down to the small events, even just a mixer all the way up to I don't know, a big conference. If you're having a small mixer, what's the lighting in the room look like? What do you want the mood to be? Yeah. Is food and beverage coming out quickly enough? Yeah. Are people clearing plates quickly enough? You don't want to be the person to go back in the kitchen and what's going on?
Yeah. Nice serve, everybody.
Bring what's going on? Because I don't know. Yeah. But there is an event producer position that I think a lot of people forget. That's in between the venue and the client. So that's kind of where I stand mostly with everything. It's I'm that event producer that works with the venue to get the vision of the client to be executed on site. So that's where I feel it's valuable.
So you're bridging that gap to complete it. Okay.
Because you speak two different languages. You speak the client's language and you also speak the language of the venue.
Right.
And the client necessarily doesn't know that language. And, sometimes it's a little harder when you're working directly with the venue because they expect you to know sometimes, even though you don't. So
exactly. So what kind of clients are you looking for tailor-made events?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm thinking about how I want to structure tailor-made events. At first, it kind of started off as weddings and bridal showers and stuff that I don't do anymore. But
leave it baby to you. You don't want the baby shower.
No.
Very sure.
No. But I think I want to take a look at like, okay, what is my vision for TaylorMade in the future? Do I want it to be something, my goal, if I could close my eyes and dream, would for it to be a place for everything and everyone. So like, and when I say that, I mean like a division for conferences, a division for galas, a division for restaurant event management, a division for, you know, certain things. I feel like oftentimes I work with different companies who are either like one or the other. And I think having the experience of working in all of them is kind of cool, because then it's like, you know, you have that mind frame to be like, we could do this for an event at a restaurant, or like, how can we do this for a conference, or how can we do this for a gala? So yeah, I think if I can close my eyes and 10 years from now, know what it's going to look like, it's
One building.
Yeah.
Different.
divisions. Yeah.
Exactly.
Divisions where like, if you were to, and maybe I'll add back the weddings and the bridal showers.
We'll see.
Add the viral, we'll see, but mostly corporate, nonprofit.
Okay, that's interesting. So, like, I do have a question about that, because I know some people who are, you know, investors or commercial investors. Some of them are actually investing into event spaces, where 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, people were getting away from that, and that put almost shutting down. So, have you seen a big difference, or is it kind of like the same, or even, you know, more busy now in your industry, you know, post pandemic?
So I think a lot of us felt like post-pandemic things were going to drop off, and they really picked up.
That's what I feel.
Yeah.
That's why.
Because there's this need to connect with people after being isolated for so long, that I feel like there is this now like need for people to want to meet in person, to want to go to an event, because we weren't together for that long of time. So the virtual events definitely dropped off like heck, which I'm not a big fan of a virtual event.
Like virtual, kind of like, it's just like, I don't Zoom.
Right. Let's just meet in person. Real life connection.
Exactly.
So there has been an uptick in events actually post-pandemic. I do think on the fundraising side, though, it has been a little bit harder for people to get back to the numbers that they had pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
So the fundraising part is a little bit difficult, I feel like, because once in fundraising, you have to maintain a momentum, right? So when you lose that momentum and it falls off, it's like,
kind of, you have to reestablish.
Yeah. And I'm sure people have done things throughout the pandemic to kind of gauge, and though some did virtual galas, some did virtual events. I attended a few virtual events, and I was like, I don't really think I need to be here. But it gets distracted. It's not engaging. So I think there has certainly been an uptick, in, especially within real estate. Like there's this big community within real estate. And I think more and more people are thinking about investing in real estate and what that means for them and what that can mean for their future. And, you know, real estate is always going to go up and down. But if there's one thing that I know, investing in real estate is always going to benefit you. So
See, you've seen it.
I know it. I know it. Not even that, but like just knowing from what I've seen for other people, like it's a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it.
It pays off.
Yeah. And I feel like younger people now are realizing how important it is to invest in real estate. And there's just communities around it. And I think it's really important to have those gatherings. So I do definitely think there's an uptick and a need for it.
And there's a need, exactly. And it's so that you're like diversifying. You're investing in here, there. So it's like, you don't have to just do one thing, and you don't have to be all real estate, right? All your time is not doing that. But you have something building on the side. You're focusing on your actual business.
It's cool. It's been fun. It's been 2024 was a year of me like setting up, and 2025 I think it's going to be a year of execution.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I have one last question for you. It's a surprise question from Daria, the CEO podcast.
Okay.
And cards. With my conversation cards.
Okay. What is one aspect or feature of your life that causes you the most friction or discomfort, and how could you change or fix it? That's an interesting question.
Very interesting.
What is one aspect of your life? Okay. It causes the most friction or discomfort, and how could you change or fix it? Literally I started creating content last year. And that was kind of my biggest jump and challenge last year. And I did it because I wanted to push myself, and kind of like just showcase my work, because not a lot of people even knew that I was an event producer full time. I did it for fun for my friends, but I don't think they knew that I did it in real life for a job. And it's been like pushing that effort really helped me. And it's really been helping me just bring more exposure to who I am and what I do, but also like push me in the direction of being uncomfortable. And being okay with being uncomfortable. And talking and doing things like this on camera and whatever that means. So I think the part that's causing me the most discomfort right now, and we were just talking about it, is really like me trying to figure out, now that 2024 is done, at the top of the year, I think I've been a little bit frazzled and thinking about like, okay, how do I want to reset this content vision? And I'm having a difficult time kind of thinking about that and like, what can I do? So I think what can I do to fix it is do a planning session. And sit down and actually
planner.
Yes, and think about like, what do I want each aspect of my life to look like in a year from now? Like I said, like 2024 was a big setup year for me. So how do I, like, what worked, what didn't work, and what do I want to change? But then also just like pushing myself to be uncomfortable and like still continue to put myself in situations where I gain exposure, which has really benefited me. So
I'm sure, especially like nowadays where you can really hone in on social media and just get it out there in general. It's like, why not tap into it?
That's exciting. This is a great question.
Well, thank you for coming. So tell them where they can find you about your Instagram, whatever.
You can, TaylorMade Events Instagram is getting rebranded right now, so it's not a live place, but you can find me Amba Tay, so Amba _ TAYYYY 4 Y's on Instagram. Amba Tay is my Instagram name. It's also my TikTok name, I think, too. And you can find me on YouTube also at Amba _ Tay. So
all right, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to click the link for Real Estate Done Right community, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.